When Proctor and Hermantown meet on the football field, they battle over a giant wooden hammer. When they meet on the ice, it's just a good old friendly matchup between two teams who really don't like each other. The Hawks riding a 13-game unbeaten streak that goes back to the season opener. The Rails haven't defeated Hermantown since at least 2009. That's as far back as our records go, so yeah, it's been a minute. And after a scoreless first period, we start in the second. It's Jax Hardy flying down the wing. That first shot saved, but Captain Brecken Ross pitchforks the puck in. The senior grabs the icebreaker and the lead. Now we're tied at 1. Instead of scoring this time around, Ross sets up Hardy in the high slot, and the freshman tickles the twine. The Rails retake the lead 2-1. Later in that period, Hawks captain Bodie Medill swings it to his brother Paxton, who roofs it top cheddar. Just like that, we're tied up again at 2-2. Now in the third period, on a Proctor man advantage, another set of brothers, Rafe and Wynn Giswald, connect for the goal, and the Rails go back up. I think the brothers need to work on that celebration a little bit, but the Hawks just wouldn't go away. Bo Christie receiving a great feed, shooting it far side, a shorthanded goal, and for the third time tonight, we're all tied up. The waning seconds of the game, puck goes down low to Jax Hardy, who finds another freshman, Drew Yost. He lights the lamp with just 4.3 seconds left. The entire town of Proctor celebrating tonight. The upset of the season in high school hockey. The Rails hand Hermantown their first loss of the season. Those Rails players certainly will remember this one forever. Proctor takes the win 4-3. And elsewhere on the scoreboard tonight, the Duluth Marshall Hilltoppers and that potent offense continue to strike, taking down Rock Ridge 6-4. The International Falls Broncos are still unbeaten after a 4-0 shutout win over Ely. And the Duluth East Greyhounds pick up a win in overtime over Bemidji. On the girls' side of action, the CEC Lumberjacks pick up a border battle victory, taking down Superior 5-1. And the Grand Rapids Greenway Lightning continue their winning ways with a 6-2 victory over Bemidji. All the